My life got interrupted by child sexual abuse.
Opportunities.
Oh my God. This is my favorite topic. But you are being incredibly partial if you don't do partiality.
When you don't do.
The inverse of God. If you read God backwards, it is dog.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Juily Show. Today we have a very special guest amongst us, Harish Iyer, speaker, writer, activist, a very big name in the LGBTQIA plus community. Let's welcome him. And thank you, Harish, for being here and joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I think it's a very important and under-discussed topic that we're all here today, and something that definitely needs a lot more awareness in India especially. And I think the whole purpose that I wanted to do this today, especially with you, is the knowledge that you had over the years and you being an active member of the community and also being very actively supportive of the community throughout, I think, 2 decades, 3 decades now?
I'm not that old. 2.5 decades maybe.
So, before we delve into the larger picture of things, right? Like, I would really like to start with just knowing your journey a bit and also drawing parallels to, how you started off from it becoming a personal journey to a public one. Because I do see that there was a lot of silence before, which then kind of, evolved into a voice and then, a bigger voice and a bigger voice. So I think that's something that I'd really be interested to know from you. And how has your journey been so far and who Harish is today?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Julie. First, it's an honor to inaugurate your show and to begin this journey with you. And I think that I really wish that this becomes a fruitful. I know everything begins as an experiment. It works. When it starts working, it really works. And thank you for choosing me to be a part of this and for this opportunity to share my story. My journey, I mean, let me rather ask you, when did you realize that are you straight, by the way? What's your sexuality?
I am very expressive, like in terms of my gender identification, yes, I am a female. But when it comes to just expression and sexuality, I think that's another topic that we probably could take up.
So when did you realize?
I don't think that question can be answered, Harish, because how do people know really? Like, you just are, right? And you are just who you are. Like, I don't think it's the conditioning I totally feel.
So it's not that I saw Sri Devi dancing and suddenly realized that, oh my God, I am Sri Devi. But I should tell you that when I was very young, even before the age of 7, when I had a incident which completely toppled my life, even before that, I used to be very feminine in the sense, I was very close to the women in my family. I had equal number of women and men in my family, but I was very close to the women in my family. I used to love draping a sari, wearing a skirt. I think that I was my sexiest best when I wore women's outfits, and I used to like flowy clothes, anything that flowed. And every time I watch films, and my mother is a big cinema-holic. She was a big cinema-holic. Now she hardly watches any. She was a big Bollywood fan. So every time that Hindi film fan, to follow what Javed Akhtar says, not Bollywood, because there's nothing called Bollywood. So I think right from that age, when I saw Sri Devi, when I saw actresses, I didn't want to be with the heroes. I didn't want to be the hero. I wanted to be with the hero, right? So I always thought of myself, if I was Sri Devi and Rishi Kapoor, or Neetu Singh and Rishi Kapoor. One of my earliest crushes was Rishi Kapoor, the old Rishi Kapoor of Rafu Chakkar. Wow. Because when he actually dressed up as a woman, oh my God, this is who I am.
This is it.
In Rafu Chakkar, when I saw him in various other films. And Sri Devi, just because of the fact that she used to slip into a character.
Right.
And she used to become that.
Right.
And Sri Devi depicted the duality of our lives when I've seen her interviews in Tamil and various other languages, and I used to see that she used to be this very shy, isko acting bhi aayega kya kind of a person. But when she used to act as Sridevi, you never saw Sridevi, you only saw the character.
The character.
So I always had this undying wish of trying to be someone which I had kept curved.
Right.
And this personality that I wanted and that I was actually, and the personality that I was projecting, living every day, was very different, which I realized much more. And that's why I thought that I got very close to Sridevi in several of my facets. At the age of 7, my life got interrupted, as many of the children in our country. My life got interrupted by a child sexual abuse. I was sexually abused by a male relative of mine. I was 7 years old when I knew the taste of semen. It was traumatic, but it wasn't really traumatic also because, you know, हमने वो बहुत बार देखा होगा कि बच्चे जब गिर जाते हैं, you tell the child कि अरे कुछ नहीं हुआ.
Correct.
And the child just gets up and the child really acts as if nothing has happened.
Correct.
So Julie, at your age, if you fell down, if your mother was to tell you that hey, कुछ नहीं हुआ, you'll either get angry at your mother,
absolutely,
or you would just feel the pain. You want to be left with your pain.
Correct.
But children have this uncanny ability to just forget.
You're absolutely
just forget,
right.
And which is very difficult to explain when you're an adult. But at that age, I used to live these two lives: the life that I was getting raped and the life that I was not getting raped. And I didn't want these two lives to meet. And my mind, it was like parts of the jigsaw puzzle,
right,
which didn't put together, which never got assembled together to reveal the real picture. So, like for instance, I'm in the studio right now with you. If I'd go out, I'd forget what happened 2 minutes ago. Like I would just forget. And again, to borrow from like Sridevi from Sadma, right? So exactly what happened with her in Mundram Pirai or Sadma.
Correct.
When it was remade in Hindi. Exactly that. I would just forget at the blink of a eyelid. I would forget, like to the extent that when my abuser used to rape me, and when we used to I used to wear my clothes and get out, and we used to get out of the room together, and it was almost like I was in a trance. Now I'm in a TRANS state, but that time I was in a TRANC state.
That's a good one. I love that. So, yeah, I totally mean. And you know what? Just to understand it rightly, did it feel like a switch? Like, you know, you turn it off, turn on, or
it was. At this moment, I think it was a switch. It was almost like someone has been hypnotized, and you're off your hypnosis. But there was no hypnosis.
Correct.
That he did. He was quite squint, so I don't think that I would be hypnotized by him also. So and
the reason I ask you this is also as a personal experience, right? Because as a child, I was abused by a close male relative, and again, you know, just to share this part with you, and maybe, you know, I can also understand better, is that when it did happen, like, it was just like a part of a jigsaw puzzle. You know, it was just like, I don't really know. I knew the extent, or I didn't know, because I was like probably 6-7 years old as well.
Where do you have the language, Julie?
Right. Or you didn't even know like what's happening, right? But I think it was years after, or like, I don't know what the trigger was or when, but there was just like a part that I remembered. Or I don't think I still remember the complete story of it, to be honest. But I think there were parts that I did remember, and I think till date I don't know, maybe someday I'll really know or understand what happened. But I think as a child, as you said, like, I don't know if children just have that ability in them to forget, one, but also suppress, or your subconscious mind just lets it go, but it's still
forget
there
or not
somewhere.
Remember. They're two different things,
right.
You know. So you
That's
don't really forget anything. You just don't remember. Has this ever happened to you that you remember a song, you don't know the entire lyrics of the song, But have there been moments where you just remember one line of the song?
Absolutely. I think songs that I used to know like from start to finish, and now it's just like, maybe I remember a paragraph or
But you
two,
still
three
know the
lines.
song,
I
you know
still
the entire song.
Yes.
But you can't remember. So imagine that happening to your life. And that's what happened to you. Have you spoken about this? Have you?
Never. I mean, my friends, my family, I'm very open, obviously, of the camera. Maybe this is the first time I'm speaking on camera about it. And I think that's the exact point, because I feel like I just, knowing from you firsthand, made me speak about it. It wasn't like, I wanted to speak about it or wanted to.
And knowing from you firsthand will get other people to speak about it.
Absolutely. That's
so I
the
think as a male survivor of child sexual abuse, there is absolutely no conversation about child sexual abuse or
Correct.
safety. As a girl, at some age, there would be some conversation about periods
Yes.
that your mother or your family
Correct.
would have spoken to you
Someone will bring it up.
about.
for sure.
Someone will bring it up.
Right.
There would be conversation about something like safety in terms of with who can kind of create what is a safe place for you, what is an unsafe place for you.
Right.
That is also something. I think children have this ability to mask what they feel, and as I grew older, you get more aware of your body.
Correct.
But when you get more aware of your body, girl children have someone who would come and tell them that, hey, you now you're going to have breasts, now you're going to have pubic hair, now you're going to get hair on your armpit, or your voice is going to become shrill. So, or for that matter, that now the neighborhood uncle is going to look at you in a different way.
Correct.
You can't do this. Then you're going to start bleeding, and when you bleed, you're not going to die. So don't feel like that. Then your mother would come and tell you, you didn't come out of the tummy. You came out of this place. So you have all this conversation
Happening. Yeah.
Let's ask any of the viewers. Let them comment on the comment over here and
Right.
and tell us, or people in this room who are there, has your father or your mother or some person ever spoken to you and told you, if you're a male child, have they ever told you that your penis is going to grow up in size, you're going to get a white fluid which is called semen, or some people are going to look at you and try to take advantage of you, some people are going to play with your penis, and if you don't like it, you should disallow it. There is no conversation that people have with boys. There is
Absolutely.
all conversation about safety of women.
Correct.
Right? And where is the safety of girl children? You don't even hear about rape cases of boys.
No, and they're not even reported because, again, there's no platform or opportunity, because how do you even know that
How do you
supposed to?
even tell? Like, for
Correct.
instance, if Juily, if you were going out, okay, in a place which is unsafe, what would people do? They would, if there are adult caretakers with you, they'll say, okay, bhaiya ke saath jao.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like the male. Now, I have to ask you this because it ties up. Okay. So, especially in India and the culture that we have. So, and the whole male stereotypes of like, you can't be vulnerable, you can't cry. Obviously, things are changing, but it's not up to par as to what we should be as a society like today. But in terms of vulnerability as well, do you think it's an extension of just the toxic masculinity that we all talk about, even on a daily basis? Like,
I think the victims of patriarchy and toxic masculinity are men themselves. We need to stop looking at them as perpetrators and have conversations with them as what led them to behave the way that they
this
behaved.
way. Absolutely.
Right? So sometimes if you're put in the responsibility of being a protector everywhere, then the idea that you need to be protected doesn't arise on anyone's head.
That is a
You
very
have been
brilliant.
always
brilliant
told
Correct.
that you have to be man enough, you have to be angry enough, you have to be macho enough.
Right.
Okay, so where is the space for that person to come and say that, you know what, I want to speak politely, I want to be in a quiet, shrill voice, I want to stay in my home, I want to cook food for my girlfriend, my wife, my friends, my mother, we have not. It is not really about whether you have a penis or you have a vagina, or whether you are and because it all boils down to that. Where did men start assuming that they are actually people who have to provide for everything?
Right.
Because they have an organ that gives, because they think that they're sperm depositors. They are people who fuck, and women are the ones who get entered. It doesn't need to be that way. That's
Correct.
only a sexual act.
Yes.
And it ends over there.
That's it.
We are a nation or a world that is obsessed with sex.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
But we don't, you know, but we don't speak about it. We only have a lot of it.
Well, look at our population.
That's what we have, a lot of it. We don't speak about it.
No, not at
And-
all. It's still a taboo, if you know.
And these are these imprints that fall in your mind without you realizing. Whether it's our galis that we speak, it's all about मैंने उसकी मार दी, मैंने उसकी ये कर दी, मैंने उसका ये कर दिया. All the galis are about the man entering a woman
Correct.
and overpowering a woman or overpowering a man also.
Yeah.
मैंने उसका जी फाड़ दिया. What is the big deal about that? Okay, गांड मार दिया. I said, where do these phrases come from? And why are these machoistic phrases? These are machoistic phrases because everything relates to the sexual act. In this space, Juily, how is this boy who is growing up, who is facing challenges, who is getting sexually abused or molested or treated badly, where is this space for this boy to come out and say that, you know what, I have been molested, I have been raped, I have been touched inappropriately? Because every time this boy goes and tells this to somebody, the response would be, hey, ये तो लड़कियों के साथ होता है. Or else the response would be, तुमने कान के नीचे बजाया क्या उसको? Right? Forgetting the fact that it's a small boy, and it doesn't matter whether the boy has a penis or a vagina, or if the boy is or if the person is child is an intersex person. It doesn't really matter. Every child is vulnerable and needs to be treated with vulnerability. Right? And needs to be educated about safe touch and unsafe touch.
Absolutely.
About pleasure and pain. And about what pleasure could be pain and what pain should not make it to pleasure.
A pleasure.
So I think all of these things need to be taught to children. I didn't have that education. I didn't have, when I first went to my mother and told her that, and I was much older by that time, that my uncle touches me here and there. My mother told me, don't go close to your uncle. She just thought that, because I used to be very close to women, I used to feel very awkward when, boys have this thing of, they used to have the tip-top pen, and when you're standing up in class, they would keep the pen below, so when you sit down, it hits your butt. But I've got raped one day before. My ass is aching, and when you do that, it doesn't feel the same way for me.
Exactly.
So I used to come home crying, and I used to say that my butt hurts. My mother never asked me the second question. Okay, what happened to you?
What happened and why?
She just said, don't play with them, it's okay. And then when I have a very close friend in my used to have a very close friend in my school. Her name was Srividya, and she used to go and tell my mother generally, and she was this very strong-headed girl, and I used to look up to her all the time. And she used to go and tell my mother, I said, why does Harish always cry sitting in the? And she came from a setup where her entire family was a family of pujaris and everything. So one would have assumed that she's this thing. But she used to go up to my mother and tell her, I said, why does Harish cry all the time? Like a girl.
Like a girl.
Yeah. So it was assumed that girls are supposed to cry. It was supposed that boys were supposed to protect.
Correct.
The corollary was never true. The opposite was never true. Right?
It didn't exist, or it was just
it was not given.
ignorant, or just didn't exist.
It didn't. See, until the first person who got raped came out and said that I was raped, the word rape wouldn't have existed in our dictionary.
Absolutely.
Right? So as I grew up, by the time I was 12 or 13, your body also changes, right? And there's no one to educate you about
Correct.
that. I do remember when I used to get a nightfall, I had stained my underwear, and I went up to my mother. My mother just told me it's called it's called white discharge. Okay. And don't bother. Like, for me, I had to explain to my mother. So she gave me all the answers, but she expected me to come and ask her. Right? When I used to tell her, when I used to get an erection, random erection, she would always explain that. She would say that, oh, you're growing up, and when it grows, just be careful, wait for it to go away and then walk, or something like that. She would tell me things.
Correct.
But I had to go up and tell her.
And bring it up. And ask her.
Right? So it was, so children never hide about child sexual abuse.
Correct.
Parents never ask about child sexual abuse. So the question should never be to a child कि तुमने इतने साल तक मुझे क्यों नहीं बताया?
This is
तुमने इतने साल तक क्यों नहीं पूछा?
हाँ.
तुमने क्यों नहीं जाना?
हाँ.
तुमने ये महसूस क्यों नहीं किया? ये माँ बाप को पूछने चाहिए.
Something, my child is going through something, or there is some, there's body language difference, or there's something, right? And I think this is a very important question, and a very important subset of this that you brought up, because I feel like even today, there's so much that we're still caught up in a lot of societal judgment and log kya kahenge and who's that and who's what. But also, so this is changing, especially in like Mumbai or tier 1 cities. You'd still hear incidents, it still happens. But I think if I go down to like tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think it's even more rampant there.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think it's our city arrogance that makes us say this. Okay? हमें लगता है हमने पढ़ाई की है तो हमारे इधर तो उतने नहीं आते हैं. In fact, it is prevalent in every quarter of society. It's there. There is, how many people today that you met, do you know of a person who has common cold? कितने लोग आज के दिन?
बस आज
के दिन.
आज के दिन में मतलब 90% तो है ही है जो मुझे पता है कि दे थ्रोट इन्फेक्शन है या कोल्ड है या कुछ ना कुछ चल रहा है. Okay, throat but you know that they came up to you and told you that I've got common cold. This is your perception, right? Correct. But how many people would have come up and told you that they've got common cold? 2 or 3 or 1 maybe. But in this room there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. All of us have told you we have been sexually abused. It is more common than common cold. And it exists in every society. In fact, when you are in the lower strata of society, when you have nothing to lose, you don't have money, you don't have izzat that you need to upkeep, so you can go out in the street and you can scream. You don't have to be mindful, if I scream, someone is going to look at me. So we often when we high society people, when we speak about it, हम लोग झोपड़पट्टी जैसे झगड़े कर रहे हो. You're right. But you know how free they are? They go and confront because they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose and they're transparent. We have so much to hide. We have to think about our neighbors, we have to think about our family function, we have to think about the tauji, we have to think about dadaji. Okay, and most of the times the abuser exists in our family. Absolutely. If my grandfather raped me, am I going to go out and say that my grandfather raped me? No, because I'm going to be bothered about everything. We are mindful about their families and everything because इज्जत रखनी है ना. Correct. जिसकी इज्जत ही नहीं, उसकी क्या मतलब जिनको ऐसा नहीं कि इज्जत नहीं है. I mean to say, who don't have to upkeep and stand to these moral. Upkeep a stature or like your place in the society or because they themselves are so, they're so. Living from pie to pie. That's why the stories of Bhavri Devi become so important. Bhavri Devi, I work in a corporate today and we speak about these stories, we speak about the posh law. Where did the posh law come into existence? Right. It was a Dalit woman who was a Sakhi, who used to go and teach children, go to families, and a government employed person who used to go to families and speak to them about not giving up, not getting their children married.
So she was the one who got raped. And when the panchayat was called in,
Yeah.
everyone was called in. They said one of the conversations that she had to hear is that we don't even touch these people. How do you expect us to rape them, right? But she had the courage. She had the courage and resilience, and the posh law that we see today in our offices. It's all because of one Dalit woman's courage of standing up and saying कि हाँ मैं हूँ. It's because of someone, of my very dear friend who's not with me anymore, Suzette Jordan, who said, I'm not a rape victim. My name is Suzette Jordan. Call me Suzette Jordan. So it took all these people and their courage for all of us to stand here and discuss these things. So it was always people who had nothing to lose, who gave it all, despite the fact that when you have nothing to lose, you can also be crushed.
That is a brilliant point.
उनके courage की वजह से हम खड़े हैं.
And we are talking about absolutely grassroots level here.
Absolutely.
So as you said, you mentioned Dalit, and it was a Dalit woman. It was people who are already marginalized in the society, right? And this was also me thinking broadly when I was just, researching more about the queer community in India and, what it lacks as a society or as an infrastructure, legally speaking, civilly speaking. We spoke about corporate right now. We spoke about education. We spoke about parents and upbringing. So I think there's a lot of things that also tie down to why we are not really providing a platform and going to the grassroots level of things, and really kind of having set up that kind of infrastructure to help and upbring communities, and especially the queer community, right? Because even with the Dalit movement, it took an Ambedkar to have that go to the grassroots level and give a space to a very large community so that they're able to get that equal opportunity per se to stand up in the crowd and then be a part of the society. As we all say that it's inclusive, but is it really inclusive?
It's not. It's not, and we should not mince words when we say this. It's not an inclusive world we live in, and that's why initiatives like DEI in corporate spaces. If everything was hunky dory, then we don't need na. हम लोग सब खुश. There is no need for posh. All women are safe. I hate it when organizations say हमारे इधर तो एक हर औरत बहुत safe है, हर मर्द एक safe है क्योंकि हमने 4 policies डाल दी. But the truth is that we don't live in a safe world. Where do we borrow people from in our corporate spaces? From society.
Correct.
What does society have? All goods, but all evils also.
Correct.
So you're borrowing from, every company is borrowing from the same society. It has got homosexuals, but it's got homophobes also.
Yes.
It's got transgenders, but it's got transphobes also. It's got people who are victims, but people who are abusers also. Right? So हम जब बात करते हैं ना, when we usually speak, Juily, we usually speak from a point of othering. Okay? In all our spaces. कि हमारे घर पे तो नहीं होता. मेरा रेपिस्ट तो मेरे घर पे ही निकला था.
Correct.
Okay? So the truth is that our solutions will come from the same places where the problems exist. There is no Masiha who is going to come from another world who's going to come and save us. And when we look at when we look at a marginalized community, and one of the words that I hate, I loathe, is when people use words like empowerment. And when very empowered people use those words. बोला तू है कौन?
Privilege, isn't it?
तू है कौन साले मेरे को empower करने के लिए? What are you? Just because you have back some money, you'll empower me? Or that you're a cis-het man, you'll empower me? Don't use the word. The only phrase that I'll use empowerment as a phrase is when I speak about people empowering themselves.
Absolutely.
I will never say
100%.
that I will go and empower you. Language has so much to say. And when we speak about the queer community, I don't need your empowerment. I need your opportunities.
Correct.
I'm not even saying that I need an equal spot. What I'm saying is that I need an equitable spot.
Can you elaborate a little more about, equal opportunities as opposed to equitable opportunities?
Oh my God. This is my favorite topic. Because let's just imagine that you and I, and there's one more woman, and we all are working in, which school did you go to?
I went to a school in Aurangabad.
Ah.
And now it's Shambhaji Nagar, but it was called Nath Valley School.
What?
Nath Valley School.
Nath Valley School.
Huh.
So so we all are teachers.
Let's call it NVS.
Oh, NVS. We all are professors in NVS school, and our school is in the second floor. Okay. All three have been told by the principal that you need to be there by 9 o'clock. Okay. We all stay in the same building. Okay. All three are professors, all three are women. We all stay in the same building. Now, but we don't get along with each other. I can't stand Juily. Juily cannot stand Harish, and there's one more, Nayonika, which we both cannot stand, and we can't stand each other. So all three of us are going over there, and we take our own. We are like 3 kilometers away. We all take our own scooters,
Transport,
and we go. Our own scooters, public transport. We take our own scooters and go. The lecture of all three of us is in the second floor. Okay, and the school is how many storied? Like say five-storied building. Okay, second floor mein hai. Now, if we all if the principal saying that all of us need to be there at 9 o'clock, is it equal? It's equal, right?
Yeah, that's equal.
It's equal.
That's equal, yes.
Right? But you reach first, I reach later, and Nayonika reaches much later. Okay? We all don't reach at 9 o'clock.
None of us.
You reach at 9 o'clock, but we both
don't reach.
Don't reach at 9 o'clock. So the principal gets angry. Okay? Is the principal justified in just getting angry?
That we are not on time?
Yeah.
As an equal rule?
Yeah, as an equal rule.
Sure.
Now, what if I was to add that I am a trans woman? When I also left at the same time as you, but when I tried taking my car, when I went to the parking lot, there were people jeering at me, people looking at me badly, passing comments on me, which made me a little conscious. So I was waiting for your car to go. There were 2 other women whose cars were there. I wanted for their cars or their bikes to go. And I waited for another 2 men, their bikes to go, so that I can drive without these people looking at me and behaving nasty with me. Okay. Then I also speeded the bike so that I could reach. But I still couldn't reach on time. Nayonika, on the other hand, was somebody who is an amputee, doesn't have legs. She found it difficult to push the pedal.
True, right.
Okay. She also reached. She reached on time. But, the lift was too crowded. You just walked up the stairs. The lift was too crowded and she couldn't walk up the lift. So that was her challenge. So now tell me, is the principal justified?
No.
But equal opportunity, all 3 women got the same opportunity.
Not really.
They got the same rule for everybody.
Well, isn't there a why are you late kind of a question that has to come around before we really
so when
judge
you start
whether it's yes
asking
or
the
no?
whys, you start becoming more equitable.
Nice.
So what if the principal said, you are a trans person, so why don't you leave half an hour early?
So because these things are going to come
These things are going to happen, so you leave half an hour early.
So you plan better.
What about telling the person, telling Nayonika, who's an amputee, telling her that you leave like 1 hour early? Is that justified?
Not at
It's
all.
not.
Not at all.
So that is what is equity. To be mindful, to ask the whys, just
Right.
as you did.
Right.
That is equity. Equality is easy. It's one size fits all.
Correct.
मैंने सबके लिए equal opportunity दे दिया.
Correct.
Equitable opportunity के लिए, I always say this, to help an aching heart, you need to bend and pick one up. You can't sit
That's
straight
beautiful.
and
Yeah.
pick one up.
Right.
You have to bend and pick an aching heart. Right? And that's the true test of empathy. Equity is a test of it will not look sexy.
Yeah.
Because for anyone to say मैंने सबके लिए equal रखा है sounds very sexy. Right? But
I think it's just sounds right, or it just sounds normal if you want to say
just sounds
it.
normal, just sounds right, and it sounds incredibly sexy to say, I don't do any partiality.
Right.
But you are being incredibly partial if you don't do
When
partiality.
you don't do partiality and you don't consider
have to be
biases
partial.
and unbiases, right?
You have to be partial to a person with disability. You have to be partial to a person who is a transgender person. There needs to be, if we all are there, that person needs an extra platform.
Correct.
And that extra platform you will give by bending and providing the platform for that person. Not by
Absolutely.
staying here. You have to
Right.
bend down and provide that platform to that person.
Again, coming up to the grassroots level, as we all are saying.
Like for a trans person, it was not easy. I'm wearing a sari and I'm coming over here.
Yes.
It's not easy. Okay. As easy as it would have been like when I was coming over here and my car met with an accident. And when I had to go out and speak to the driver and ask him, what the fuck is wrong? What the hell is
What
happening?
the hell is going on?
I couldn't do that. So I asked Nayonika to do that. Okay,
And I
when
want
she
to
was with
ask
me.
you a little bit about this
Yeah.
because, of course, when you came in as well, I know you're late and you had an accident. You said, I couldn't go out. And I think that really kind of made me want to ask you that why is it that you still, because we talk as a society, oh, it's so much better
I'm very
now.
privileged. I am privileged. Okay. But the truth is that we all have our majorities and minorities. My majority part that I've lived my majority of my life as a cis man. Okay, that was a privilege. I belong to a Brahmin family. I don't support Brahminism. I don't. I'm willing to take all the good that comes,
Right.
but if there's anything that pushes other people away,
Right.
I'm not for it. In terms of customs and other things, I think customs are a real custom, as we speak in Tamil.
Nice.
I think, but we all have but when I realized that I was a gender fluid person, which belongs to the trans umbrella, I realized that it's not the same. It's not easy as just getting up and going and being taken seriously. Because there are very few role models.
Right.
There are very few people that I know of whose shoulders I could lean off. And similarly, just as a male survivor of child sex abuse, I didn't have a single role model. I used to scan through, when I realized my abuse, I used to run through pages to see, is there another survivor?
Right.
Whose name, whose face I know. The only case that I came up with was this one case where Anchorage or one place where a children's house was, where there were boys in the children's house who were sexually abused. But those were distant, never in a family, and those names, faces I never saw.
Right.
So that's when you realize, so each one of us really has a responsibility. If we have the courage to hold our story close to our faces and tell our stories to the cameras that are flashing on us, it becomes our responsibility to say it with the most authentic way that we can, because to live your life truly and authentically is the truest and the purest form of activism. So you don't need to be a janda flagging or a bra burning activist to do that.
Absolutely.
We all can inspire with our stories and our inspirations. When people ask me who's your truest inspiration, of course I got inspired by Sri Devi and a lot of those things, but my truest inspiration is in my mirror. Not in my mother, but in my mirror. Because every time you look at somebody and you look at yourself and you see where you've come from, it should motivate you to go further as well. And that's when, and now is the tricky part. Now when you're privileged, when you have reached a place
Right.
where your story is known for many people,
Right.
how do you open up rather than get coiling down and saying that, you know what, I'm very great. Now I'll have a bunch of 20 people and I will not speak to you directly, and I'll just go on these fancy shows like the Juily Show and not really do anything after that. That's why to ensure that you're accessible to people becomes important.
Right.
So my number is available on my Instagram. People can reach out to me. It doesn't really matter where they are. Of course, I get some crank calls, but I'll not build a story of all the negatives that have happened. We have to.
Right.
It's also the examples that you build.
Correct.
If you're going to build an example, like I'll tell you, the RJ Kar rape case happened recently. This happened in Calcutta.
The Kolkata rape
Yeah.
case, yes, absolutely.
It happened in Kolkata, and so there are two ways of responding to that. One is rape हुआ है, चलो सारी औरतों को बाहर जाने मत दो. The second way of responding to that is to say that, you know what, a rape has happened. One of us is also the rapist. One of us is also the victim of rape.
Correct.
So let's do one thing. Let's have all the women go out together in the night and let's reclaim the night shift. Okay? What they chose initially was to say, oh, there was a notice that came which said that let's not go out. Let's have women not go out.
Yeah, let's just.
That's what happened.
Safety, cautionary, and everything.
Pinjara Tod, the movement, a grassroots movement started by young college-going these things. They protested against hostel timings for women. Why should women stay in the hostel for longer? Go inside the hostel early, more curfew for women.
Yeah.
Because men come and rape them. Do curfew. I'll tell you biggest solution. Put a curfew on all the men. I don't think it's a viable solution.
Listen, I have said it so many times. I was like,
so
what about
then there will
men?
be no rape, no?
Yeah.
I don't stand for either. But I'm just saying for argument's
It's
sake.
just an argument's sake, right? When you're saying
For argument's sake,
curfew on
if that is true, that all women have to stay inside because they will not get raped.
Absolutely.
Let all the men stay inside forever. They will not get raped at all.
At all, exactly.
It's not that it's not that simple.
We are not promoting it. It's not that black and white.
It's not that black and white, and it's not that all women are not rapists either.
Correct. Again, that too, right?
Yeah.
Important to address it.
So when you speak about gender equality, I know of cases where have you heard this song? Bolna auntie aun kya ghanti mein bajaun kya?
Bajao kya? Haan.
Right? We all laughed on it.
Correct.
But do you know that many times this whole auntie fixation happens because many boys get sexually abused by women.
By women, yes.
Right? So that's also been this thing. But there you don't look at it as sexual abuse. There you look at it as fantasy.
Oh, how cool. Or, wow, you can bag like an older
You ask
lady.
any men, any of the men who have been in school, they always knew of this one teacher. Hai ki nahi? Knew of this one teacher.
So true.
Or one friend's mother who used to be, and that time used to use a lot of sexualized words. वो बहुत देऊ है, वो देती है.
देऊ.
Like she gives.
Acha, oh wow.
She gives in the sense not love. Like she allows herself to be pleasure.
To be,
But you never looked. If you put the same thing in your case, Juily, if they put the same thing and say, "वो uncle बहुत देऊ है," it'll not be seen as that. You'll say that uncle is Turkey.
Turkey. Ek number.
Okay.
Right.
You'll say the woman is Chalu, but you'll still fantasize her.
Correct.
Of let me go and fuck her. I mean, let's fantasize her.
Yeah.
That's not seen as rape. So the realm, the way we look at male bodies has to change. We don't have to over-sexualize the woman's body.
Right.
And over-fantasize the idea that whenever boys would be saying about something that they are not vulnerable.
Right.
They are vulnerable.
Right.
So we make men the weakest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because vulnerability is the truest strength.
Strength, right.
And you make the men the weakest because you don't allow them to cry. Vulnerability, strength is not going and saying कि मैं तेरी गाड़ मार दूंगा, तेरी चूत फाड़ूंगा. That is not strength. True strength is in saying that, you know what, I can break down. And I would say this time and again, I can break down into thousands pieces. And I would rely on you and me together to build those 1,000 pieces together and make another me. But I'm willing to break down. It takes courage to say that.
It takes a lot of courage. And I think this is exactly, I think sometimes, we do a lot, as you said, like as a society to, what can we do? What can we do? And I think sometimes I feel like the simplest answer is just be there and let me be there. Like, let me be.
You don't need to uplift.
Correct.
You don't need to upgrade.
Correct.
Many a times, Many times, and that's why I found the biggest solace, Juily, in my dog. I used to have a dog called Jimmy. His name was Jimmy. I used to come home after getting raped. I didn't confess. When I confessed to my mother, it was a disaster. By the time I was 12, 13, I used to get gang raped. Again, it was a disaster. When I went and tried telling to my mother that I was bleeding from my anus, my mother thought that, you must be eating too many mangoes. Okay. Because the thought, I don't blame her now, but at that time I did hate my mother. I didn't hate my mother. I was like, my mother is not there with me.
Spiteful, or you just felt like you're not being heard.
And,
you don't, is she not acknowledging it? Does
and
she
my mother
know?
is a very, very kind person. So my mother, and because she used to be kind to everybody, and like in all the kindness of other people, she has forgotten me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I knew my mother was a very nice person, but my mother was not there for me. So I used to have this in the back of my mind. But when I grew up, I realized that this is not a pandemic. It's an epidemic. That child sex abuse is an epidemic. It exists in every part of every part. All the countries that you have visited, I have always met more survivors. Right? So it doesn't end. It doesn't really end. The stories don't end. All that you can do for that person is what my dog did for me. I used to come home, sit down, and my dog used to come, sniff me, and he understood that I was low. Though I used to be smiling all the time, he understood my real pain within all the smiles, and that was 16, 17 is when you start getting aware about your body.
Absolutely.
Right? So I understood, and he used to insist that I go with him to the room. He used to sit on top of the bed of the size of this. He used to insist that I don't sit on the bed, but I sit down. With my head facing him, so that he is in the perfect space for me. And I used to speak to him. I used to tell him, Jimmy, pata hai aaj mere saath ye hua. I used to tell him in Tamil, I used to tell him in English, I used to tell him in whatever fucking language I understood or he understood, because he understood every emotion of mine. And I used to cry. And as I cried and as I spoke, I was also sharing parts of the jigsaw puzzle with him. And these puzzles were putting together by itself as I was speaking to him. And every time I cried, he licked my tears. He said no word. That's what you need. You don't need to be God. I don't know about the existence of God. I don't know if God exists or God doesn't exist. I know that dogs exist. The inverse of God. If you read God backwards, it is dog.
It is dog.
Right?
Absolutely.
The inverse of God exists. And I still don't know if I'm an atheist or a believer. I definitely know that I'm a believer in the love of animals.
Absolutely.
And when Jimmy died at the age of 4, he was just 4 when he passed away. And I really thought that he absorbed all my pain, and that's why he passed away. 4.5 was when he passed away. Born on 25th of October. But and he died on the 7th of April, 4 years later, and 4.5 years later. So 1 week, 9 days before my birthday. And when he died, I remember he was in the operation table. His stomach and he hardly had any organs because his spleen was removed, this was removed. He was a very sickly dog. And finally, when I lifted him and put him on the operation table at SPCA, he just looked at me and he insisted that he gets down of the operation table. So I told them just to relieve him because I didn't know whether he'll survive or he'll die.
Right.
And when he got down the operation table, he went straight to the cat ward and the dog ward. He looked at them, he looked at me, he looked at them, he looked at me. And then he came, and then there was a hen, a rooster. He looked at the rooster, he looked at me. Jimmy was an animal lover, he loved other animals. So he looked at me, and then he lied down. So they took him to the the dog that he was struggling to put on the operation, he lied down. And the moment the anesthesia went in, even before the anesthesia, he passed away. He had a peaceful few moments. What did Jimmy tell me at that time? He told me, I'd be gone, look after these animals. See me in all these animals that you see over here. The first thing that I did after that, I stopped eating non-veg. Because I still feed, much to the opposition of many vegans who would be reading this, who would be watching this, I still feed non-veg to my pet,
Right.
To my cat, and to my dog also. Okay, but to the present woman whom I have, who is her name is Sonia. She's quite a bitch. She's like a cat. She's very catty. And I have a cat called Krishna, who's more like a dog, and who likes to be petted and who likes to be
Likes the attention.
Likes the attention. My dog is not bothered. You feed her something and she's gone. And but I realized that there's so much of power, and every time I put something within my body which has been separated from its mother,
Right.
which has been raped.
Right.
Cows face the most brutal of conditions, which has been killed, which has been slaughtered, taken away from them, they stay in a square foot all their life, with less than this.
Yeah.
One of the lenses of this chashma is what they live all their life, just to
All their
die.
lives. Yeah.
I said, as when we speak about abuse, and when we say things like I was abused like an animal.
Like an animal. I was just gonna say that.
You have normalized the abuse of animals so much.
So much so that you're like
That-
saying that as a human being.
And how can I, who stands up for animal welfare, who stands up against abuse, be okay with hate on my plate, with so much of pain in my plate? As an abuse survivor, as a survivor of child sex abuse, it gives me, and as somebody, I might not be God believing, but I'm definitely God fearing, or
Right.
in term, as somebody who believes in the energy that people bring in.
Absolutely. Energy is big. And I think it ties so beautifully to everything that you've just said. You being a vegan, you being an animal lover, you being from the queer community. I think there's so much of awareness that's still needed
Me being
in
a
the
child
society.
sex abuse survivor. I mean,
And a sex
and
abuse
a
survivor.
trans person.
And a
Yeah.
trans person. So the list goes on, as I'm saying. And I think even with veganism, if you even take independent topics like just animal lovers and veganism, a lot of people just don't understand the...
I think, we all come from we all have certain missions in our life.
Right.
Okay. My mission is this. Okay. There are some immensely, the animal welfare community is the most convoluted. They fight for animals who can't speak for themselves. They think that they know everything best for the animal, and they fight with each other.
Is that similar to
Okay.
empowering animals?
Yeah.
It's absolute
The
bullshit.
animal welfare community is the most disjointed and the most self-hating community that I've ever seen. Because everyone thinks that they feel better. My thing is, you collaborate for that one thing. If there is a dog which is howling in my street, I don't really care which animal welfare organization it comes
Correct.
from. I only care on how much care I can give, how much I can follow up with them,
Correct.
how much I can go and do it, and am I able to do it or not. If there's someone
Right.
else who's able to do it better, I will give it to that person and I will rely on that person. Right? And I will do that. I will not badmouth that person and bitch about that person. Also, if that person is eating non-veg, if it comes to veganism, I'll fight with that person. If it comes to a point where the person is being good to dogs and cats but not being good to hens and roosters, it's okay. Dogs and cats ke liye acha hai na? I will take that person
Take what you're getting.
for what they are good at.
Right.
Okay, when it comes to hens and chickens, I'll fight with that person.
Right.
So there's no one size fits all.
Correct.
Okay. I don't think all kind people are vegan. I don't think so. There could be a vegan rapist.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think
there could be
veganism
people say that
means-
what Hitler was vegetarian. I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's true.
Huh.
But that's true that you can have the kindest of people who are kindest in one of the aspects.
Right.
And who could be absolutely unkind in one. Like, for instance, my mother put up a matrimonial ad. Okay.
When
Which
was
said,
this?
this was in 2015.
Okay, it's been a while. And I think back in the day, was it that common? Not at all.
No, my
right?
mother put up a matrimonial ad because she was quite accepting of my sexuality. We are out in
And
a lot of news
you were
channels
looking to get married?
and everything, and I was not getting. I was getting action in terms of sex.
Were there apps
But-
back then?
Huh?
Were there apps back then?
There were, but there was an app called Guys for Men, which later became Planet Romeo. But when I grew up, when I actually discovered this app, we used to go on this Yahoo chat,
Huh, I was
and
gonna
we used to
say.
be like there's one or two people with camera, and we used to do like camera rakha hai, and we used to and that was a VGA camera जो ठीक से नजर भी नहीं
Nazar
आता
nahi
था.
aata, right.
And for us, sex was even camera sex. Matlab, you are the person over there in some other country is masturbating, looking at you, who's masturbating over here, and then and if you both manage to come at the same time, you're like, oh my god, this is an orgasm. And we used to go out and say we had sex. It was not considered camera sex.
Right.
Abhi to jab penis doesn't go inside the vagina or the anus, it's not considered
it's not.
sex.
Definition is not
तब
sex.
तो हम hand job देते थे एक दूसरे को, हम बोलते थे हमने sex कर लिया. And we used to be very
happy about it.
Now though it has to be, and there's so many procedures and there's so many terms. Which even the queer community, top है, bottom है, versatile है,
Absolutely.
अंदर जाना चाहिए, अंदर नहीं जाना. I said, and there's so many fetishes. I said sometimes we just liked something. If somebody liked smelling armpits, people just liked smelling armpits. Now it's like that's got some new fetish ka naam.
It's a fetish.
That is
name now.
somebody liked smelling legs. It's like, okay, you like
Feet.
smelling sex. Now it's called some
It's
fetish.
everything now.
So I'm like, previously we didn't have all these definitions. They were very simple. Like I like this. Menu card में ये है. तुम्हारे मेन्यू कार्ड में क्या है? ये है. अच्छा, ये दो मैच करता है. ये दो चीज करेंगे. ये दो चीज नहीं करेंगे. It was that simple.
Right.
Okay. And now you have communities on that also. So I don't know how to
very
feel
niche,
about it.
niche
So I'm
departments.
old gay, new trans in this whole
Arena.
in this
Like
whole
this whole
arena.
dating and
So I have
sexual
so
arena.
much to learn from younger people when it comes to these things. But also to tell them that, hey, your life is far more complicated. Ours was not.
Yeah.
And our gay guy, when you used to, as you asked about app, in our app, we used to be like, everyone was called Raj when I came out. Because Shah Rukh Khan was Raj. And then when Hrithik Roshan came in, everyone was called Rohit.
Rohit? Oh gosh.
And so if you legit, even today, on my phone, I'm friends with them right now. I know their real names also. But they're Raj and Rohit. Raj Mulund,
virtual,
Raj Mulund, Raj Andheri, Raj Lokhandwala, Raj Seven Bungalows. I've got Raj everywhere.
How many Rajas have you had?
I've had for
more
lunch and
Rajas
dinner.
or more Rohits?
No, I've had more Rajas because Shah Rukh fans were more.
Okay. Timeless.
So, and yeah, they were never looking for Simran, and if they were looking for, they found me. Okay, so I used to call myself Aham.
I was going to ask, what did you?
I used to call myself Aham. I used to call myself
Where
Aham
this come from?
because I thought it's me. Aham is me, so that was my pseudonym, and my email was called aham.rajiv@yahoo.com. There were matrimonial ads which were like, मेरे को गौड़ सरस्वत ब्राह्मण चाहिए, काली चाहिए, गोरी चाहिए. वो तो आर्टिफिशियल इंसेमिनाइजेशन से काऊ को बनाया जाता है. ये चिकन आधे जो अंडे आते हैं, they come from non-fertilized things because male chicks get killed by the grinder.
Exactly.
That's why it happens. You can be completely anti-government and still appreciate the fact that the government has taken opposition leaders for a peace talk with Pakistan.